felt so facilitated in the course of making Thrive, because we were like, right when we would find we're just a small. It was just us in the beginning, and then we were looking for who to hire to facilitate it, and we knew we wanted to hire for consciousness, that it didn't matter where anyone was located with the internet. We could do this however we wanted. And then there were things that would be really helpful if someone was in town. And, right when we needed the stock licensing stuff was really heating up, and it turned out, we ended up using thousands of pictures that needed to all be licensed. And right then, knock on the door, some old friends moved to town and needed some work for a while and would be just perfect for it, just as we needed that. And every time, just on every level, there was facilitation of the right people coming, or of us like postponing a shoot when we weren't ready, that looked like we were all geared up, we had it all ready, and we just weren't quite ready for it. And we would just get this strong hit that it was like actually not the thing to do. We had so many times where one or the other of us would really get a clear hit, and then the other just knew if that's how it felt, then that was the right thing. And then when Occupy was out right before we were, and things like that, it was like the timing couldn't have been better for Thrive ultimately, and we just felt that facilitation all the way.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I felt when I first saw it. I was like, wow, look at this. On top of everything else, look at this. Here's somebody that's telling the truth.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the timing was amazing, and we find that in our lives.
Yeah.
That when we make these trips, we try to make these trips at least twice a year, and we find that once we're in motion, we're in some kind of a bubble.
Yeah.
And in the bubble, everything seems to work for the good of the whole thing, and we're in communication with the entire environment around us.
Yeah, you guys are following and facilitating the global conversation. It must be remarkable to actually go from one of those to the next, and then tie those together that way.
Yeah.
I try to think in these terms also when the stuff happens that feels like it's wrong. Like even with folks dissociating or whatever part of the process can seem like, oh, this is a drag or this shouldn't happen. I think, why do I think just some of it's facilitated and not all of it? Like, that's just my little mind that can't grasp it yet. But in fact, I think it's all facilitated. And when Danny said that about that some people just opt out, it's like it's actually helpful for people to clarify who and where they are in this process. And so even though it's uncomfortable or it's done against us or something, it shows me where am I going to be putting my energy and my time, who do I want to spend my time with, and where are we going? So all of that's part of it too. And I've been saying that lately, like sometimes if ever I have a doubt, I think, why do I even have that doubt anymore when I can see what a huge part of the whole that we are, that we're so clearly part of something bigger, that I don't really want to waste my time. If I like to look for what's the part of this that makes sense that I can't see right now.
Yeah. Wow.
I have a granddaughter that loves when I tell her stories, and she always asks me at the beginning of the story, is this one going to end happily? And I tell her, listen, if it doesn't have a happy ending, it's not over yet.
Oh, that's lovely. That's really lovely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably true. It's probably very true.
Yeah.
That somehow we were not put here, despite all the evidence to the contrary, to suffer, or to be unhappy, or to be abused.
Yeah, no, that's definitely.
Well, the universe comes in wholes, as far as I can tell, WHOLE. So if you have a partial whirlpool, it just dissipates right away. It actually has to be a full torus for it to last, and that's where obviously we spend a lot of time in Thrive talking about the torus, because the notion that there is a pattern throughout the entire universe that is the only pattern that sustains itself in a continuous medium is pretty startling, and especially given that our evolutionary imperative is to find out very quickly how to create sustainable systems. The fact that the universe is giving us blueprints everywhere we look, if we just know how to see it, is really important.
And what we heard this week, that 2 weeks ago, Nature magazine published an article that said, we are now, right now, at the tipping point about how we're going to handle this environment. We either have to act now or it's over. This is it, right now. Not next week, not last week, right now. And here we sit on top of this mountain, somehow or another knowing that this thing is going to have a happy ending. And Karen, tell them what Eleanor told you about why she thinks it's going to be okay.
Oh, well, yes. Eleanor told us, we interviewed her maybe 3 months. This was Eleanor Watson, Chuck's aunt, who lived here in Santa Cruz. And so we interviewed her, and she said, this has been the most difficult time that I have ever seen in the world in my lifetime. And she lived to be 100. And she said, but I have hope, because I see all these new babies coming in, and I don't think they would waste their life coming here if it wasn't going to survive. Is that great? Yeah.
Yeah, no, we are really, truly at the fork in the road where, for the most part, evolution has happened to us. You know, we realized one day, oh, look, I'm in a body, I'm human, I'm on this pretty cool planet, hurtling through the universe. And now the next phase in evolution actually requires our conscious participation. So it's a heavy-duty moment in history. But man, what a moment to be alive, to be able to participate in making that kind of difference. I wouldn't trade that for anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know, one thing about the Taurus that was interesting to me in the very beginning was the notion of being distinct and unified. That's one of the distinguishing features of the fundamental pattern that nature uses at every scale. I mean, just as a gardener, I see efficiencies in nature, so I would guess that, you know, like you see the phi spiral, that the way the fern unfurls is the same way that a fetus unfurls. It's just a way that growth can happen while in proportion, you know, so that you don't get all out of proportion as something grows. So I saw that kind of thing, but the quality of being distinct and unified, like in the movie, we talk about it as a whirlpool in water. So it's made out of water, but it's distinct within the body of water that it's in. And to me, like, that's the crux of the matter. You know, in a good relationship, it's like, how do we be distinct and unified at once? I mean, that's the art of any relationship that I've ever been in. You know, how do you not lose yourself in the unified field of it? Maintain a sense of your own distinct self within it. Same with the people in their communities, you know, people in families, people in communities, communities in larger social structures. All of that, it's that dynamic tension of distinct and unified. And I think about that a lot. That's kind of the take-home thoughts that I walk around with in terms of the toroidal field. I mean, I picture it in my meditations because I like to feel a part of the cosmic grid, you know, but in terms of really understanding what is this process by which I'm clear about, like when Foster was saying he's unique, like that's it. We're each unique. So as much as we're a part of the collective human reality, there's actually something distinctly, uniquely called for from each of us. That's what we're here for as our own individual vortexes that we are. And I like to think in those terms because it helps me to know that, you know, that thought that I have or the opinion I have or the inclination I have, that those matter. Like it actually matters to pay attention to what's coming through each of us because we wouldn't each be here. Like you think the babies wouldn't be wasted, or Eleanor said that, you know, I don't think that any of us are wasted in our distinct contribution to that which is unified. And I was watching a movie the other day called Pray the Devil Back to Hell about women in Liberia. It's just a stunning film and a stunning story about, I mean, speaking of the hardest time on the planet, I mean, Liberia, if there's hell on earth, it's in Liberia, really, in terms of just the corruption and the horror that the people there have had to live through. And the women, ordinary women with extraordinary courage, you know, that's the subtitle on the movie. And I was thinking about it, watching these women who organize spiritually together, Christian, Muslim, all the women come together and just simply say no more. and they do it through their prayer. And just, I recommend this movie completely, Pray the Devil Back to Hell. But when I was thinking about ordinary women with extraordinary courage, and I realized, it's true that it's extraordinary courage. I just don't know if that's the right word, because honestly, I think that people have the courage. It's like it's not as extraordinary as we think. There are so many people now coming forth and speaking up and finding their voices and doing it. So really, maybe it's like ordinary women with ordinary courage. Maybe ordinary courage is extraordinary. Maybe ordinary people are extraordinary people. Maybe that's really what it's all about, is that we're each extraordinary and have a specific, distinct, unique offering within this unity of all of us. And that's what I think is the joy for me, is being able to experience that, because, we didn't know how Thrive would be received. I always had a feeling that it was going to be big. It just sort of had a feeling, because I think because we were speaking respectfully to people, and I felt a yearning on the part of people to be honored and spoken to for being the intelligent, caring people that they are. And like your show does, and the independent media that we've been able to participate in does. But mainstream media, it's just, what's that quote? The audacity with which you speak to an insulted audience. That was a John Adams quote. And I thought about that every time I would see anything mainstream. And so I thought from Making Thrive that it would be received well, because it was the movie that we each would have wanted. But we didn't know. You never know. You just do what's the right thing to do, and then it comes from that. So anyway, I don't know what all that was related to, but somehow having the distinct and unified, and how that's related to us each finding our own voice and courage and everything else, even in situations as seemingly and as realistically dire as Liberia, that when you see the women there, you realize we are going to make it.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening with this solutions model, too, is that people are coming together, but they begin that process by orienting within themselves. They ask themselves, what sector am I most interested in, or most skilled at, ideally both. And then they ask themselves, well, what's the level of engagement that really compels me at this particular time in my life? Am I someone who wants to meet immediate needs by feeding hungry people or caring for the sick? Or am I more a systems thinker? Do I want to work with the financial system or the political system or the transportation system or something like that to try to improve the lives of people by having better systems? Or the third one is, am I someone who wants to work on the consciousness shift itself? Because any system is going to be a result of the worldview of the people creating that system. And if it's an effective system aligned with the patterns of nature, then you're not going to have as many unmet immediate needs. So when people identify all of that and then relate to the people in their community from that orientation, they can just relax and go, oh, I get to do my calling, and people are going to appreciate it. It's needed. And I can also see from this chart that all of the other sectors and the other levels are also being handled by people for whom that's their calling. And then it's no longer, oh, I've got to save the world by myself. So many activists just get burned out with this illusion that you're alone. But the world is filled with billions of brilliant, creative people. And as those people are realizing their uniqueness, but at the same time really joining together in effective collaborative ways, I'm convinced now that it is unstoppable.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. And that's probably a very good place to bring this conversation to a close. Yeah. You are involved, as are we, and all the people that are watching this, and all 7 billion of us on the planet. Yeah. We are involved in something that is unstoppable, and all we need to do is let go, accept it, and believe it's coming. Yeah. Because it's coming. And we found this is a really nice way to end this conversation, and we found this morning, and it says a lot. This is a quote from Teilhard de Chardin.
All right.
There is an almost sensual longing for communion with others who have a large vision. The immense fulfillment of the friendship between those engaged in furthering the evolution of consciousness has a quality impossible to describe. And that's how we feel about having this time with you, and that's how our viewer will feel in watching this. This is just beautiful.
Thank you very much.
Well, thanks so much for the opportunity to be in this amazing conversation with you, and also to be a part of your community. I look forward to our paths crossing many times in the
That would
future.
be very nice. Wonderful.
Thanks to you all.
We would love that. Thank you so much.
Karen, say the magic words.
God bless you both for the work you do and for who you are. You're beautiful beings, and we're so happy to know you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank all of you.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Good night, folks.